Now, since we were last here, in the midst of all of my overly completionistic tendencies, I realized that there was one aspect of completionism that I had completely forgotten about. You notice that we ended last week as a child, and now we are starting back up here as an adult. There is one thing that I needed to get if I was going to go full completionist. And when I say one thing, I mean 10 things. And it's out here in Hyrule Field as an adult. The good news is that thanks to a little bit of research... Epona, there you are. I have come to realize that getting the pose here on Hyrule Field is actually not that difficult. You need to know placement, and you need to have good enough archery skills. Thankfully, through my many experiences of archery training and whatnot, the archery skills is not that hard. The challenge, as you can see, is the ghosts themselves. Epona, you're like right in the way. Ah, I had one. I wonder if this would be better if I went down. Or maybe I need to be facing a different direction. That might help. Let's try that. I'm going to try facing over here and see if it changes. Because you notice he just keeps popping up because I'm in the right location. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's going to work out perfectly. All right. So it showed up like right there. Wait for it. And there it goes. We got it. This is actually number 9 of 10 because I did take some time to get most of them. I actually used to think that you had to catch them in a specific order. I don't think that is the case. Or maybe it used to be the case, but no longer is. Like they fixed it in subsequent versions. Regardless, it means that we're almost done. I have not thought of any way to include the ghost guy in our story because I wasn't planning on doing this. Yes, puppy? Puppy hears other puppy, so he must bork at other puppy. Ollie! Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, side quest. There's one other option, though. There's one other potential option. And the other potential option that I see is the fact that our final... Oh, that's interesting. Look at this. It's giving us an indication whether or not there are gold scatollas present in the area in question. That's really neat. Anywho, because we are dealing with the Spirit Temple, the idea of dealing with spirits is something that possibly could come up since we have a dude who is really, really interested in ghosts. Oh, sorry, Ollie. But at the same time, I don't think it would actually work out all that well since, well, because the whole idea that we were going with in terms of like why Ganondorf originally went to the Spirit Temple and why Link was challenged in the way that he is at the front of it is the idea of not spirit as in ghosts, but spirit as in one's personal spiritual improvement, one's personal growth. A quest that Ganondorf somehow failed. Which... there it is. 1,000 points. I am a genuine ghost hunter. Hooray! You're thinking about what I promised would happen when you earned 1,000 points. Seriously, all of that effort for a 4th bottle. So dumb. Anywho. We have the thing. If anything else, we will be 100%ing this game. Because reasons. Mostly my own silly ones. So I can't think of any specific reasons why the Ghost Man would be particularly useful in this story. So I got nothing. I got nothing. We're not going to worry about it. Let us return to the story that we were telling. As Link is persuaded to return to... I'd say what I could! Return to the Spirit Temple. Since we haven't been working with any kind of magical teleportation for the bulk of this game, in fact, we really haven't been using it much at all, the question would then have to be, how in the world does Link get here if he's not able to warp here? Which is an interesting question. He would have to sneak past the Gerudo again. Which is plausible. He's done it once, he could do it again. They said that the treasure you can earn in the Gerudo's training ground is not as great as you would expect, given its difficulty. You're not wrong. That is so funny that that is a thing. They're not wrong. They're not. I would love for us to be able to go far back in time enough to be able to see, like, Ganondorf's fall in person, but we don't appear to have that large amount of control over where we end up in time. So, with that being lost to us, I don't want Nabooru to just be here. Just for us to just kind of show up and she's just here. So what then becomes our option then is that we would need to locate her before we get here. The way that Hyrule is set up... Oh, come on, it doesn't fill up? Or maybe I need to do it from here. I need to do it from here. Okay, hang on. The way that Hyrule is set up in... Really? Come on! I'm supposed to be able to fill up the oasis. There it is! Behold water. And fairies. Could you get over here so I could... There we go. There we go. All right, so there's that. I'm gonna keep one empty bottle in case. So instead of us going into the temple and finding Nabooru, instead, I wish I had like a mouse or something so I could point out. You see how we have all of these mountains forming a kind of a wall with Gerudo Valley and the fortress and all of that? Instead of having all of that, perhaps Link is able to find a way that his small frame could kind of sneak through into the valley and past and into the desert. That is an option, or it's just Link being super sneaky, because that's the kind of skills that he has been able to obtain from all of his time training with the Gerudo before. While he is traveling, perhaps as he is going past the Gerudo Fortress himself, he is hearing a discussion. Either an argument, or perhaps he witnesses some kind of clandestine, secretive meeting. The meeting is with some of... Oh, good freaking grief. Get back here. Rude. I'm having a conversation. The meeting is with some of the elders of the Gerudo Nation, whom he has interacted with previously. I have Neighbor's Love, don't I? Yes, I do. Okay, good. And they are speaking with one Gerudo whom he has never seen before, whom we will discover later is Nabooru. They are having some kind of secret meeting, to which, following Naburu kind of like puts a hood up or something like that and dashes off into the desert. And Link follows after her because they're going in the same direction. So it's like, what else is he gonna do? So he follows her for a while. And instead of meeting inside the spirit temple, they actually meet here at this oasis. It's just an oasis that you have along the way to the spirit temple for travelers or whatnot to recover themselves as they continue on their journey. And so it is that location, while Link is still trying to maintain a low profile, that instead it becomes clear that Naburu becomes aware of Link's presence and basically calls him out. And so not necessarily, I haven't seen you around, kid, because the desert is supposed to be the Gerudo's domain. It's not like regular Hylians are wandering around the desert. So there is obvious defensive posture. What are you doing here, outsider? And the idea of Link having nothing to do is all of these options is kind of dumb, to be perfectly honest. Link needs a way to convince Naburu that he is not... Hi, Mushroom. He is not a threat. It certainly would help that Naburu would take a second look and realize that Link is a child. However, the fact that Link was able to sneak by all of the Gerudo on the way here is definitely something that she would take notice of. So again, it's just, but wait. And so she would probably try and interrogate him. I'm not certain what questions she would want to ask, though, because it's not something that a trained spy or agent, whatever Naburu's rank is at this point in her lifetime, she is not so dumb as to be like, yes. Wait. Do you follow Ganondorf? It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw that out there immediately. Because, A, if I was following Ganondorf, I wouldn't be telling you, and B, I would just be killing you. So, it doesn't make that much sense for her to be doing that. And she wouldn't be so dumb as to ask that outright. So, what she would need to do is question him, figure out his name, where he's from, what is he doing out here, all in a very kind of coy way. Probably something along the lines of, first there's the realizing that someone is there, she gets up with her sword drawn, Link would come out, realize that it's a kid, and then she would behave as if she is dropping her guard down, asking him to join her at the oasis. She has a fire there. And questioning him somewhat casually, though probably away from Link's sight, still has a hand on one of her scimitars. And through that questioning, she is able to eventually more or less discern that Link is not someone that she needs to be initially wary of. To take that even further, there could even be some kind of attack happening out in the desert. Maybe a group of monsters or something. And Link would show off his skill and be able to aid and even defend Nabooru in particular moments in that battle, which helps Nabooru gain respect for Link and maybe open up just a little bit more. We don't want to, hi Shimigamics, we don't want Nabooru to lay her cards out on the table, because what we're going to be doing at this point, just like we've been doing with all the other temples, Nabooru is going to be traveling with Link during this first part of the adventure. The discussion of Ganondorf would certainly come up at some point during this discussion. And the idea of Ganondorf being a ruthless, unforgiving, and violent person going against Gerudo culture, which can, of course, include stealing from women and children and killing people. You know, however Nabooru wants to frame it, would definitely come up. And whether or not she is completely upfront with Link, at least at the beginning, about that's why she's investigating this place, it is something that would come up at some point. This is definitely where this myth of one man born every 100 years is considered a very special person among the Gerudo, and that kind of divine blessing has encouraged the Gerudo to make and train that man to be not necessarily a king, which is how it is framed here. It would be more like an additional elder, or maybe chieftain. The idea of the Gerudo having a king, which is we've only ever seen in this game, never with any of the other Gerudo. You can kind of see that idea has been more or less put to the side after this game. So we don't say king, but definitely he is supposed to be treated as a special individual, uniquely blessed, and he was to be trained as such. But it is obvious that he has rejected the teachings of the Gerudo and is trying to accumulate power in a way that goes against tradition. And while many of the rank and file have been persuaded that this will usher in a new age for the Gerudo, the elders are very suspicious. They are concerned, and they fear what Ganondorf will lead their people into creating. Worst case scenario, it being like the fall of the Gerudo. They know that he changed after coming out of the Spirit Temple. And so the primary reason that Nabooru is here is to try and figure out what happened. No one has gone to the Spirit Temple for their trial, their coming of age test, since. And so they're hoping that Nabooru will be able to locate what is locate the problem. So instead of an attempted theft and sabotage, we are, both of them, looking for answers. Since the Spirit Temple is meant to be a place for personal trial, this place is generally supposed to alter itself depending on the person who has come to be tried. However, in this case, we have both Nabooru and Link in at the same time, and Nabooru has already been tried. She is a full-fledged Gerudo at this point. So while the tests in general seem to be more geared towards Link, I just realized something. I have always gone to the left. I could start by going to the right because I have Din's Fire. That's hilarious. I've never thought that I could do that before. More importantly, that gets rid of all of these keys. That's awesome. Okay, I missed. There we go. Oh, but now I have to go back because the rupees is what makes the thing fall. Okay. Now I understand. Okay, this is why I always went this way. I've been playing too many randomizers. I like being just small enough that I can basically cheese him as soon as he lowers his dealio. His shield, that's what that's called. I know what things are called. Ah, so close. The other major thing that we need to make sure that we showcase is Nabooru's special affinity to show that she eventually will be the Sage of Spirit. How one is to do that is an interesting question, because before it was always kind of the sage interacting with the spirits associated with that element, as it were. But Nabooru is literally the Sage of Spirit. And so it's kind of unnecessary, if you will. So instead, it would have to be something along the lines of maybe personal maturity, even kind of the sensing of spirits in general. She has a natural affinity for those things. kind of a communicative type of deal. So, I know I killed that Anubis really, really fast, but understanding what an Anubis is, why it's here, Naburu could also speak a little bit more about kind of the nature of the importance of the Spirit Temple and why spiritual growth is just as important as physical. And what that is supposed to mean for the Gerudo. Of all the things that we have explored about it, canonically speaking, the things that we have learned about these different cultures, their spiritual lives, is something that has relatively remained unexplored. And there's a bit of a reason for that, I think, as far as Nintendo is concerned. Despite some of the hiccups that they've had along the way, they tend to avoid matters of religious type deals for want of avoiding controversy. Darn it. There we go. But that does leave, like I said, a portion of these people's cultures untouched. And so explaining what spiritual growth and spirituality means to the Gerudo could be a very interesting avenue of discussion. And for Link, who has both experienced a great deal of growth over his adventure and yet at the same time has completely skipped over the usual growing up process, it would be a very meaningful conversation for him. Very meaningful discussion. As he starts to understand what it actually means to grow up. Oh, I need explodies. I also think that in that conversation, it would be important for Naburu to bring up a couple of different concepts. Concepts that are essential for any person who to be able to come to terms with in the course of growing up. And that is the concept of dealing with loss. And in and it is accepting what things can be changed and what things cannot be changed. The second one being a very important point for Ganondorf, who we learn in Wind Waker was not willing to give up on things that were not his and not come to terms with the things that he did have. The first point being exceptionally important for Link, as we will find at the end of this game and at the beginning of Majora's Mask. Dealing with loss. It is near the end of this conversation that both Link and Nabooru are met with the Iron Knuckle, who, despite having emblems similar to the Gerudo markings, look very unfamiliar to Nabooru initially. But then she senses, again, showing her spiritual affinity and whatnot, that something is very wrong about this entity. Ow. And so the two of them together would need to join forces to defeat it. All right, you know what? I have all of these sticks. I'm going to use them. There we go. The stick is more powerful than the sword, which is hilarious. As the Iron Knuckle falls and collapses on the ground, and it doesn't disappear in a thing of fire, it lays there, seemingly defeated. Link is kind of recovering from the battle, while Nabooru goes forward and examines the Iron Knuckle. She peeks under the hooded helm, sees what's inside, and her eyes widen with shock. But before she can exclaim what it is that she has found, Gapora's not here. Not yet. Not yet. We can have him show up at the end, but not quite yet. There we go. As he flies into the temple somehow. Into the wall. Anywho. So before she can exclaim what she has discovered about the Iron Knuckles, there is suddenly a blast of magic that appears to come out of nowhere. It's dark magic. And both she and the Iron Knuckle begin to get pulled in to a swirling vortex down below her, which kind of what, as we see down here, though we would be seeing it inside the temple. This is where we are first introduced to our two witches. Without being identified, they don't name themselves. However, we do hear them speak, as they are basically saying something to the effect of, "We have you on our clutches, what shall we do with you?" You know, that evil witch type of type of words. As Naburo is sinking into it, she uses her spiritual powers to essentially cast what looks like she is casting a spell upon Link. And that magic, that spiritual magic coming from Naburo onto Link is what gives Link what we are essentially going to be seeing as the Silver Gauntlets. It gives him added strength as well as recognition from the Spirit Temple as someone who has received the blessings, if you will, of the Gerudo. Normally, it's something that would happen with a big old ceremony, a coming of age celebration, that whole kind of deal, but obviously couldn't be done, and so she is instead whisked off. And Link, uncertain of what to do, begins to run out of the temple. As he runs out of the temple, he is greeted by Gabora. He quickly explains what is going on and why he is so panicked and why he's not sure what to do. He's thinking he should go get help from the Gerudo. And Gabora basically stops him and says something to the effect of, Cat Dad, welcome on in. Appreciate it so much. Thanks for raiding on in. Gapora would essentially reveal to Link that he knows that Link has been traveling through time. Kind of like what we saw in the actual cutscene just a little while ago. This spiritual trial was granted to you in the past that it may be of use to you in the future. She may be lost to you now, but that does not mean she will be lost to you later. And Link takes that advice and rides on Gapora's back to the Temple of Time, where he then returns back to the future. Cue Back to the Future music. That would probably be copyright if I actually played it. And I'm going to jump over to the forest because we need to quickly stop by Zora's fountain to get a Scatola, because this is the life that I live. You are so late, buddy. Ah, yes. Yes. That swamp will indeed stuck you. That's not the word for that, but whatever. There we go. So we'll pause briefly to give myself enough time to get a thing. All right. Up and up and up we go. As as they're traveling back to the Spirit Temple, I'm sure Link and Navi would have a conversation of what they have experienced. Particularly since we are starting to get near the end. Link would express frustration at not being able to help Nabooru. Navi assuring Link that they'll be able to make it right. This is definitely kind of the part of the story where Link would say something to the effect of, "You'll never leave me, Navi, right?" Which is not a question Navi wants to answer, for obvious reasons. But Link has been around Navi long enough to realize when she's trying to dodge a question. Poor Link indeed. And Link probably would badger Navi enough that she would probably need to respond. She did do this to fulfill the wish of the Deku Tree, but the fairies don't belong in the regular world. She is a being of the forest and needs to go back. That's where she lives. It's probably not a completed conversation. It's one of those things that has to be either interrupted or we'll come back to this conversation later type of deal. Because it's not something that Navi wants to do. Navi has close feelings for Link, just as Link has close feelings for Navi. They are the closest of friends. But Navi does need to go home at some point, and Link needs to find his, and that's a conversation that they will have to revisit at some point. Ah, darn it. And so they return to the temple and enter. The place still looks the way as it did before, with no real change. But this time, as Link comes over to this side, the spiritual power or recognition that Nabooru gave him begins to react to the temple around him. Whether that gives him increased strength like we just saw right here, or whether it does something different altogether and just magically opens, either way works. And this is where a new exploration of the temple begins. I think the major pieces that we need to uncover here is that backstory that Link and Navi were curious about. Since this is the Spirit Temple, it is quite possible that the information that they uncover are revealed to them via echoes. Spiritual remnants of the past. Maybe spirits who had witnessed the events. Or perhaps kind of emotional echoes that left an imprint on the temple itself. So that as they proceed through the temple, they are provided voice echoes, even visions of the things that had occurred before. Hey, JV Smooth. So, what kind of experience did Ganondorf have while he was in the Spirit Temple? Yes, definitely playing the classic. And as you can tell down below, we're doing a little bit more than that. As we are fleshing out the story. Basically taking the gameplay and crafting the story that we have in and around it so that it makes more sense from a narrative perspective. With any kind of Gerudo trial, there is certainly physical stuff, and we see in these visions Ganondorf getting past these physical trials with very little very little trouble. Because he's always displayed incredible physical prowess and whatnot. Not theory crafting, story crafting. Probably be better if we just did this. It's simpler that way. But a spiritual test involves more than just your physical ability. And so, Ganondorf would be spiritually tried. And I would imagine that would probably involve being tempted as well. And so a lot of the questions that the spirits would ask Ganondorf would expose his thirst for power, his never being satisfied with his lot in life. There's 100. There would also be a bit of a derision, a prideful enmity that he holds for the other Gerudo. Ganondorf is not someone who sees himself necessarily as a Gerudo, but as a king. Not king of the Gerudo, but a king. He does not see the Gerudo as his tribespeople, but as his servants. All of the spiritual trial exposes these aspects of his dark nature. That is the wrong one. I want this one. Or better yet, I want to do it this way because it's fun. And it doesn't require magic. They all died. It's just fun that way. Now, normally, those kinds of spiritual failings would inevitably lead to a failing of the test. Ganondorf has obviously not grown in a spiritual fashion, much less in terms of maturity. But Ganondorf's will is so strong that he more or less overpowers the spiritual entities that safeguard the test. It is at this point in which Link is accosted by more Iron Knuckles. Before, Link and Nabooru dealt with one, and Nabooru was able to see that there was enough, if you will, well, no, not enough. Nabooru was able to see what was inside the Iron Knuckle. Link would be about to do the same, except something would need to prevent him from doing so. We want the reveal of what's inside an Iron Knuckle to be held off until the very end. And so he would need to be accosted by multiple Iron Knuckles, which prevents him from looking inside. The Mirror Shield, which we just got, I'm thinking would be most easily obtained from an Iron Knuckle. It has the Gerudo emblem on it, so it would be some kind of Gerudo artifact. It could either be held on like an altar or some kind of relief. Probably at some point it could have nearly blinded Link. Like, it gets reflected, he's like, ah! And then he almost gets hit by an axe or something by it because he's blinded. And after the fight, he takes it because, dude, this thing's useful. And it's after that scuffle, once again, before they take the time to investigate what is inside these fallen enemies, they hear more of those echoes. And it's the sounds of the witches. Link obviously recognizes them for what they are. He saw and heard them before. And he sees through... Oh, dang it. I should have done that. There we go. Fine, we'll do it that way. There. Much better. He sees more visions, and it is essentially Kwame and Kotake finding and taking in Ganondorf. Because Ganondorf's evil spirit is so strong and his will was so great, he basically pulled from the depths two evil spirits who had been long sealed away. But Ganondorf was able to, subconsciously or otherwise, summon them. Pick that up on the way back. Twinrova is identified as from Navi in game to be Ganondorf's surrogate mother. So that is where he gets that. That's where Twinrova gets that distinction. Because at this point, Ganondorf has two new teachers. They are the ones who educate Ganondorf in the ways of black magic. And it is they, two dark spirits from the creation of the world, who know of and inform Ganon of the nature of and the location of the Triforce. And so that is why Ganondorf knew about the Sacred Realm and why he decided to form a false alliance with the King of Hyrule. It is just as Link and Navi reach this conclusion and realization that they hear a voice. Looks like someone is here, cool man. And so Link is introduced personally to the two witches. This scene almost goes exactly like we see it. Though the fight is certainly a lot more challenging. Because Naburo is obviously exceptionally skilled. Not this part, though it is funny. And so the two of them would fight, and during the fight, Navi would certainly realize that something is wrong. The Iron Knuckle definitely looks stronger, looks different. Link recognizes that something seems very familiar about this one. And during the fight, he is able to knock the helmet off and sees that it is Naburo. And it is there that Navi realizes and Link realizes, if this is Naburo, then every single Iron Knuckle that they have faced thus far, and then you'd kind of like flash and you would see like the Iron Knuckle, and then like maybe the armor vanishes. You can see like a brainwashed Gerudo in one and another Gerudo in another. And there's just this realization of what's going on. Naburo is still under the witch's control. But Link has this spiritual power that Naburo granted him. And so, through the use of that energy, Link is able to basically purify and bring Naburo back to normal. Now, in this scene, they have them do it all over again. Though I do like the phrases. Like, they know that she is valuable and that obviously she's very strong. But instead of them casting more magic and making her vanish like that happens here, instead, Link uses his spiritual power and his newly acquired shield to block and preserve Noburu so that she is not taken. So instead of running down this long hallway, the fight would happen where things just happened. But we need a large area to work with. Noburo would be confused, obviously, because she's like, what the heck? What's going on? She would recognize the clothes. Link would probably make some kind of statement to make her realize that he is Link. These lines are definitely in here. And the witches realize in order to get Noburo back, they're going to have to deal with Link first. Hence, the fight. But Noburo is definitely not going to be left out of this because she's going to realize, oh, they did it. They going down. And so the fight basically goes 2-on-2. Seriously? You were right there. I hate this one. What? That's so dumb. Okay, and I just missed. See, and this is why I hate this one. This one is so mean. There we go. Link and Noburo would need to work together to basically make the witches aim for each other. Eventually, Link would definitely be using some clever usage of the... Oh, hi, Nathan. Clever usage of the mirror shield in order to do what we are doing. But having both Link and Noburo at the same time actually would make for some very clever kind of usage of placement and provoking them and all that kind of strategy type stuff, which I think would be really fun since both, at this point, both Link and Noburo are Gerudo trained. Uh-oh. Dang it. I figured my angle was off. They could pull off. It's like, do you know this strategy? Why, yes. Wait, how did you do that? Elder Da-Da-Da taught me. Oh, she taught me that too. Ah, dang it. There we go. They totally pull off Kotake and Koume's double dynamite attack, also known as the double D attack. Though I think they're bigger than that. Yes, I just went there. The strategy, of course, has to flip. And at this, Noburo would basically be helping to store the energy in the mirror shield. Oh! 1 round, done, get out of here. We don't need to elaborate on this battle any further. We're done. And Noburo would use her abilities as the newly awakened Sage of Spirit to seal these two away once again. Thank goodness the Master Sword is here, because that will aid immensely. I do like them yelling at each other, but at the same time, this makes zero sense. Because why do they have halos? They should not be going to heaven. They should not be going to heaven. We are sealing these dark spirits somewhere else. They do not belong up there. I'm just saying. I'm just saying they should have been sucked down to hell. As Link and Nabooru walk through and out of the temple, Nabooru, of course, talks about what happened, what she remembers, which honestly isn't much. It was probably a lot more like walking through a nightmare or a daydream. Just kind of depends. And so she's a little perplexed that 7 years? You're kidding me. I've been out of this for 7 years? That's got to be like some weird kind of dealio. And so Link would explain his true purpose in coming to the Spirit Temple, what he is searching for, and who he is searching for. And Nabooru almost kind of a sheepish, like, yeah, you pretty much guessed it. I'm the one that you're looking for. The reason Nabooru was sent was because she is essentially the caretaker of the temple. She's the one who administers the trials for the Gerudo in the Spirit Temple. And she would be the one who could safely traverse the place in order to find out what had happened. But unfortunately, obviously, the temple had been overrun and taken over due to Ganondorf inadvertently summoning the witches. Hence everything that happened after that. And so as the two of them reconcile and understand what is going on, Nabooru is ready to do her part as the Sage of Spirit. I forgot about mentioning the promise. She definitely mentioned a promise back then. And as they're walking together, instead of sitting in this chamber, she certainly says the line that she is about to say. More like under her breath. So when Link says... she doesn't say it's a promise to marry. She just says... If only I knew you'd become such a handsome man. Should have kept the promise I made. And Link would be like, wait, what? And Nabooru would say, oh, nothing. Nabooru is ready to stay behind at the temple to perform her duty. However, both of them receive word spiritually, a psychic connection, as it were, from Waru. He senses that all of the sages have been awakened and rescued, that the temples have been cleansed. It is time. And so, all of the sages are now going to be gathering and planning the assault. I'm going to the graveyard primarily to show the inside of the House of Scatola, since we have all of the Scatolas taken care of. It's just kind of a cool thing to see, because You never see it, because who in their right mind goes through to collect all 100 Scatollas? I mean, you can debate whether or not I'm in my right mind, but there you go. I completely forgot that that's how he moved. But, you know, I don't need that, but, you know, whatever. But there you go. That's all of them. We'll be careful not to get cursed again. Well, good for you. What happens next is less of a one-on-one conversation, at least initially, and is instead more of a war conference. Link, the sages, and Sheik gather together in order to plan their attack. All the pieces are in place. This is what we're going to do. And so they discuss, they share, you know, what's going on with the circle of lava. This is what we're going to do in order to create that bridge. Here's what's going to happen. Link, this is going to be riding a lot on you because you have our blessings, you have our medallions. As the plan gets essentially finalized, Sheik gestures to Link and takes him aside. You've uncovered many hardships, awakened 6 sages. Now we have this final challenge. I think probably during the war conference, the title Hero of Time would be given to Link. I'm sure probably like Rauru would have like initially proposed it, and Darunia would be all for it. Everyone else would be like, yeah, kind of whole idea. But Impa takes Link aside to tell him some very poignant facts. The reason why Ganondorf has been so intent on dealing with him, and why he has yet to see Zelda this entire time. And so this warning and this description of the nature of the Triforce is given. We already knew about the mirror reflecting the heart, as that's something that Rauru would have told Link as he was training him up. But the fact that the Triforce is a balance, weighing the forces of power, wisdom, and courage, that's new information for Link. The details of the plan, I'm basically trying to kind of space out what happens at this point. When does Zelda get captured? Because this is definitely the time in which, well, not necessarily, because we're not going to be able to just walk through the front door. Ganondorf is going to have his best forces waiting for this small group of would-be invaders. And so I see Link, Impa, and the sages, not Impa, Link, Sheik, and the sages, you know, all charging in at once. And the battle itself starts to, like, it starts going poorly. And so it kind of forces their hand, and Sheik would reveal herself to reveal herself and utilize the Triforce of Wisdom. So there would be this part, the fact that Link has it and Zelda has the other one. That's why she's in hiding, and she will reveal herself when the time is right to seal all of this away. They have their first fight outside Ganon's castle, and during that fight, Sheik is forced to reveal herself as Zelda. The power that Zelda has with the Triforce of Wisdom and the light that she holds is more than enough to drive away the forces that they are facing with. And so, as they are recuperating afterward, that is when Zelda is able to talk about this part of the conversation. As they are finally able to reunite, they discuss the things that have happened. Like, a lot of this scene, I think, would go as we see. Though a lot of this information we already know. And we would definitely have, like, flashbacks or cuts. We see Zelda donning the outfit and starting working as Sheik, helping to organize the resistances and all of these things. And the final kind of steps of the plan here that they're talking about right here would then be kind of elaborated on, though it was referenced before in their war council. She does not necessarily give the arrow of light, but definitely imbues the power, her sacred power, into Link's bow, which will allow him to fire light arrows. It is then that they get reports that another wave of monsters is coming. And so they begin to fight again. And they seem to be doing pretty well. But the whole thing is a distraction, as Ganondorf himself has come to capture Zelda. And so instead of a disembodied voice, it is literally Ganondorf standing there. All of the other sages and Link are kind of off to the side, and it's kind of one of those hostage situations where you want to charge forward, but you're not sure what Ganondorf will do to Zelda if you do, so you're forced to, like, stand there and be all frustrated and angry. Good anime standoff scene. I love these lines. These are great lines. I don't think she necessarily needs to, like, black out like that. Like, I'm fine with her being like, help me, the whole time as Ganondorf drags her away, takes her away. Probably flies up to the top of his keep. So everyone is very frustrated. Link is particularly frustrated at having Zelda taken from him right under his nose. But one of the sages, I'm trying to decide which one, maybe Impa? I don't know, would put a hand on his shoulder and say, she's not lost yet. And then they would proceed with the plan, with all of the sages there. They bring their power together, call upon the spirits of their respected affinities, and create a bridge. Welcome to Rainbow Road. The place is eerily quiet, at least at the initial. It is not until they get here that they have to stop and take stock of what is going on around them. And they realize that there is the barrier and the sources of the barrier. Because they are not entirely certain how this will behave, they agree to all split up and basically take each one of the power sources individually. So each sage takes a separate one. Which, of course, leads to the question of what is Link doing the entire time? Link could be fighting off monsters. He's very good at that. He could also be joining with sages at different points in the adventure, in their section. Ow. Seriously? How are you getting me from there? Rude. There we go. I'm of two minds about this, because on the one hand, I really love Link being able to get the opportunity to have another interactive moment, if you will, with every sage. But I'm also trying to figure out the logistics of how that would be done. I think the only way to satisfy both requirements would be to, instead of having a circular kind of deal where everybody is essentially equidistant from the center, there would need to be a more of a straight line. And at every single point, one sage needs to stay behind in order to make sure that the barrier does not reactivate. Maybe it requires a sage's power to keep the energy down, or something to that effect. Come here, you. Come back. Thank you. So, what kind of things would each sage be talking to Link about? We already had Saria, so we should probably start with her. The challenges, the battles, or whatever that... Whatever they're doing needs to be fairly reminiscent of stuff that they would do in the Lost Woods, and Saria would comment on that. It's like, this is like the games we used to play at such and such a time. And Link's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I'd love to play those games again. Well, consider us playing them right now. And then they start doing whatever silly games that they used to do as children, as they take care of whatever forces they happen to be dealing with at the time. It'd be pretty childish, be pretty funny. Lost Woods music would totally be playing in the background while it happened. I'm seeing this, like, whole dramatic kind of confrontation segment as they're all charging down through this place and storming the castle one point at a time. Very dramatic. Because this right here, this music is not very dramatic. It's very eerie. It does not fit. Ruto. Something about her undying love. I'm sure she's saying something about that. If my father knew what I was doing right now, there has to be a line about that. At some point, Link and Impa would both be, like, shadow dancing, jumping over holes and whatnot. Oh, seriously? I didn't need that. Whatever. In fact, I probably want to do that right now. So I will. Oh, real nice. I feel cool for doing that. There we go. Impa, what would Impa be commenting on? Since Impa is a lot more sober, she would probably reaffirm Link's, like, determination to do what is necessary despite the things that he has seen already. That is not the button I wanted. There we go. And the answer that Link gives would put Impa's mind at ease. Oh, seriously? There we go. That's better. And done. There's 3. Darunia is... well, he's being Darunia. He's having a blast and smashing everything in sight. Like, there's no other way to describe it. My bad. He would comment something to the effect of, well, like, Link, how you doing? It's like, I'm doing pretty good right now. It's like, isn't this great? Just like the old times, smashing up everything and so on and so forth. Nothing like bombing a few Dodongos. There aren't any Dodongos here. Yeah, but it'd be pretty cool if there were. There we go, that's better. Darunia promises something along the lines of Link's name is going to be remembered for generations to come. And Link would probably say something to the effect of, you already named your kid after me. What else can you do? Oh, all right, I did that, didn't I? For some reason, I find jovial Darunia as being someone who doesn't take anything seriously. He's just enjoying life. And as a side note, this does not have to happen in the order that we're doing them. It would be whatever order makes general sense for the story. Yes, general sense. I forgot that was a thing. I have not mentioned the fact that we have the golden gauntlets now. And I feel like they would be a byproduct of the light that Zelda had granted unto Link's bow to let him do cast light arrows. Just something that when Link needs it, it's like, I gotta do this, and then the light shines and they glow around his gauntlets and then he's able to pick it up. Rauru is the one who begins to refer to Link as only the hero of time, especially during their raid of the castle. And Link still feels a little embarrassed about it because it just feels strange. Oh. But Rauru is insistent on it, shall we say. You are the destined one. You were chosen ever since you had come from your... I don't understand any of that. I just want things to go back to the way they were. Okay, the fact that I did not touch any of those boulders is probably a first for me. I wonder who would have more sass when working with Link, Ruto or Nabooru? Part of me says Nabooru. It feels like something she would do. I am going to grab a blue potion. At least I assume that one of these Deku scrubs are going to want to offer me a blue potion. Let's find out. That's a red potion. I need magic more than I need health. There we go. Okay, green potion's fine. I don't think I'll need it. Doesn't hurt. It'll be randomized on Saturday. How about that? I'll be doing an Ocarina of Time randomizer on Saturday. Oh yeah, bombs. Ah! Untouched! Real nice. Wait, what am I doing? I don't need to be this cautious, but for some reason I'm being this cautious. There we go. Good. Bomb chew. I definitely did not do that properly. Please don't blow up in my face. Thank you. And apparently that didn't work either. Darn it. Ow! What? There we go. That was strange. I don't need any more bomb chew, but I wanted to have full bomb chew. Because reasons. I'll take the arrows, though. That's useful. I think it's this one? Yeah. Yeah, Nabooru and Link are just, like, having so much fun. They're almost out-sassing each other. And Nabooru is taking great pleasure in having her revenge, as it were. I mean, she has 7 years to pay back Ganondorf for, so... And so with all of them dispelled, the barrier falls. And with all of the sages preoccupied, it falls to Link to head to the surface. Well, head up the tower. But before we head up the tower, we're gonna go get a thing. Because we can, and it would be absolutely ridiculous to have gotten 100% on literally everything else and not pick up the defense boost. Because we have done everything else. Heave ho! If we really wanted to have, like, the big final clash kind of battle, where, like, all of the Hylians and the Zora and the Kokiri and the Great Fairy come to help with the fight, we could even, like, completely scale up this battle and just have everyone involved. Go full Hyrule Warriors on this crap. It would be amazing. I have doubled my health, effectually. Woo! All right, let's finish this off. There would be two different things that happen as, well, technically 3 different things happening as Link is climbing up the stairs. The first and obvious thing would be Link. We have to have scenes of Link running up the stairs and defeating enemies as he progresses. The other thing, well, the second thing I should say that is going on is kind of what we're hearing with Ganondorf playing the organ. But the third thing that is happening is that Ganondorf is talking. Some of them would be the lines that we see Ganondorf speak once we get up there. But he is definitely speaking to Zelda during this whole thing, reminiscing about the time that he has, and time and effort he has taken in tracking Zelda down, how it seemed like he was frustrated at every turn, how there's no way he would have ever thought to look in a young man for the Princess of Hyrule. He would talk about his efforts in taking over Hyrule, his motivations for doing it, why he believes himself to be the only one worthy of wielding the power of the gods, and only someone with that kind of worth is suitable for ruling the planet. That whole kind of deal. Oh, yeah. There we go. And all that remains is to deal with one final loose end. Which I completely finished that line a lot sooner than I should have. Because he would finish that line and then there would be Link. Because you have to have that dramatic timing of one loose end. Because you love that kind of timing. Imagine they made that staircase like the one in Mario 64. Are you telling me I would have had to do that whole backwards long jump thing in order to glitch my way up? He definitely says something like this. He would also thank the two of them. He would personally thank both Link and Zelda for opening the doors and granting him access to the Triforce. This is something that Link has already had to come to terms with. Zelda, I'm sure, has recognized it in the past 7 years, but this fact still does not sit well with either of them because it's their fault. They're responsible for all of this. But he definitely... He doesn't call them toys, but he certainly reaffirms the assertion that only someone as he is worthy of wielding these relics, this power. Navi would not just be held back. Navi would be, like, slammed against the wall and seemingly knocked out. And Link would run over to Navi and, like, pick her up really carefully. And Navi would be, like, struggling to maintain consciousness. I'm sorry, Link. And Link would be like, oh, no! And then, like, carefully tucking her away. Faces Ganondorf, and they're ready to do battle. The battle would certainly be a lot more complicated than this, though there would certainly be moments of Ganondorf launching balls of lightning and the dark spheres that we see. I think there would be actual swordplay as well. We're looking for a dramatic fight here. I'm not a choreographer, so I can't really, like, design the whole thing. But you kind of get the general idea. This is a whole mix of dramatic fighting that has to happen. Oh, 2 rounds! 2 rounds done! Man, it's like I've played this game a lot or something. I think the end of this would actually work pretty much like it does. There is very little I think I would change about this final sequence. Ganondorf, pitiful man. Without a strong, righteous mind, he could not control the power of the gods. And Ganondorf would have to be, like, struggling to, like, struggling to breathe, but just enough to, like, say something to the effect of, I'm taking you with me, or something to that effect. As the Triforce of Power glows, and then everything starts shaking. I can see a few different things happening at the same time while we're doing this. There's the obvious Link and Zelda running down the tower. We had the sages here in the tower with us, and so we can cut to all of them as they are making evacuations, either for themselves or for whoever happened to be with them, depending on how big we decided to make the battle. Navi would not be conscious just yet. I don't think Navi would regain consciousness until they got out of the castle. But they would certainly be accosted by monsters on the way down. Both Link and Zelda would fight. And Link would probably ask something to the effect of, like, what happens now? What happens after this? Zelda would probably say something more along the lines of, let's worry about that after we leave. And we're safely out. Link probably wants to talk about a couple of different things, but Zelda is overly anxious. First off, about the fact that the place is falling down around them, but there's also this growing shroud of darkness on Zelda's mind. And she can't get it out of her mind. Ah, dang it! Thank you. Everyone else is already waiting outside. They're watching everything crumble down around them. Well, no touchy. I did not give consent, Cat Dad. And as everything is falling apart, Link and Zelda rush out as everything is crumbling down behind them. There is, of course, cheering from everybody as they see that they have escaped. They're double-checking to make sure everybody is present and accounted for. And as the dust clears, there is both a sigh of relief and a roar of cheers as everyone celebrates the downfall of the King of Evil. It's a little bit later that Navi regains consciousness. She is distraught, and then, of course, very sad that she couldn't help. And everyone kind of has to comfort her, and everything's good. And it's still a little bit while later, not immediate, but a little bit while later, as a couple of people are starting to kind of look around the rubble, checking for stuff, seeing if anything survived. There's probably one or two people who's like, I'll believe he's dead when I see his dead corpse. And that's when they hear the sounds. And the sound is loud. It is a... that does not sound natural. And so there's panic among the searchers. And so they all start run off. Link and Zelda get the news. They run forward to see what's going on. What happened? We're not sure. We heard something. And everyone's like, okay, calm down, let's... And then Link slowly goes forward. And that's when everything flares up again. There's a voice coming from inside as you hear Ganondorf basically say that the Triforce is mine, and I will take it by any means necessary. He can still speak, though he is definitely a very transformed entity in both, obviously, form, voice, and personality. The power has truly made him go insane. Navi definitely says that. And initially, the only thing that Link can do is dodge and move. He tries to figure out what it is he is supposed to do in order to defeat this thing. And so there's a lot of dodging, there's a lot of acrobatic things, and a lot of utilization of the different skills, the different items, and the different things that he has learned over the course of his adventures. This is a real coming together of everything that he has gained on this journey. All the while, Ganon's intellect begins to deteriorate more and more as this bestial side takes greater hold on him. The Master Sword at this point is stuck in the ground, and there are several people trying to wrench it out. Darunia himself is trying to bring in all of his Goronic strength to, like, get it, get it, get it! And finally, they're able to wrench it loose. Zelda comes over to the sword, and she's the one who grabs it, and she imbues it with light as she chucks it towards Link. And Link is able to jump up and grab it out of the sky. And he comes back down on it, onto Ganon, and slashes away. At this point, Zelda is issuing commands, not just to the citizenry to back up, but to the sages to take their positions. They begin moving around the circle of fire and getting themselves in the proper locations to begin the enchantment, as Zelda begins powering up as well. Link has no idea what's going on, as he is entirely focused on what is in front of him, for obvious reasons. Until finally, Zelda's magic is able to break through the barrier and launch her attack at Ganondorf. At that point, all of the sages are able to get into a closer arrangement, begin putting their magic circle, essentially, into alignment. And as Ganondorf is struggling, his movements is much weaker, Link is able to drive in, deflect several blows with the sword and shield, and drive the sword home. I think Zelda would say this line. Ah, he got the point! Ah! Yeah, I think he got the point. It was a sordid affair. Just the tip. I don't know, maybe that went just a little too sharp. Instead of Ganondorf saying these words, it would be Ganon saying these words. as he is basically entrapped by either tendrils or maybe even chains of light and pulled down into a golden abyss. He will make this promise as he is dragged down into oblivion. I like Chains of Light. It's pretty cool. The celebration that we see during the end credits would happen here. Everybody is there. Link is there. Zelda's there. The sages are there. And they are all celebrating their freedom. The end of the King of Evil. Very few people recognize Link for who he is. They recognize him as the hero of time, but as Link from 7 years ago, very few people do. And in a lot of ways, that's probably for the best, but it also makes Link feel very out of place. And it is near the end of the party with Link and Zelda walking by themselves, first in Hyrule Field and then into Hyrule Castle Town, as Link shares those feelings, as well as both of them coming to grips with what they caused. Because they know it. They tried to control something that they had no idea what it was. They had no faith in what was already provided, and in their youthful exuberance, righteous though it was, caused consequences that they could not expect. And it is, in fact, miraculous that they could deal with it. It is at this point that they are at, once again, the Temple of Time. They return to the pedestal. And Zelda requests the Ocarina back. The explanation needs to be a little bit more succinct, that Link needs to go back. He needs to go and grow up properly, experience time properly, and experience a life without this kind of tragedy marring his life. Zelda feels that she owes that much to him. Link is uncertain because of the friends that he's made, the connections that he has created, that really only came together in this time. And it is then that he realizes that they are not alone, as the other sages have followed them and are also present. All of them came to see him off. Several of them were his friends already, and they remind Link of that. And the ones that weren't, agree with Zelda that this is for his sake. A gift that she and they can give to him. she does feel hesitant about it. Because all of the faith that she put in him all came to pass, and yet she will never see him again. Well, not like this she won't. The professional side of me says, Zelda would totally give Link something that would enable him to make connections and get back to the princess in his time so that things will be da-da-da-da-da-da. But that would kill the vibe of the story as we are telling it. But this line, go home, regain your lost time, where you are supposed to be, the way you are supposed to be. And so Link places the sword in its pedestal. It doesn't go immediately, but as Zelda begins playing the Ocarina of Time, Link feels himself leaving, as all of them bid a fond farewell to the hero of time. And so in the post-credits, instead of seeing the party that we will see, we see instead all of Hyrule rebuilding. We see homes being rebuilt, bridges put back up. We see diplomatic relations beginning to form as people who never had much of a reason to interact with each other begin to do so. There would be a monologue, most likely from Zelda, talking about the nature of time, the nature of the choices that we make, words and feelings that echo what she said as Impa to Link, how time moves as a never-ending stream, where none can change its course, nor dictate where it goes, and how the consequences of one's actions are far beyond any of them. And so, what you decide to do with your time is of monumental importance. And even though mistakes, good intentioned or not, can lead to terrible consequences, there is always time to go back, fix what you can, and continue to move on forward. Which is the nature of life, and in particular the nature of growing up. Learning, growing, changing, and deciding what to do with whatever time that has been given to you. So as I said, this party portion would be happening before Link departs. And I feel a little bad that we have to have this next part of the discussion amid such happy music. But we have to talk about it here because we're not given enough time during the segment in which the music is more appropriate. Because the final part of the story involves a discussion between Link and Navi. They come back to the Temple of Time. Link is once again a child. And they reminisce on what has happened and how it's all over. And the question comes up, well, what are you going to do now? Well, I should probably tell Zelda what happened so that we don't make the same mistake. And I guess we'll see where I go from there. I guess I'm a Hylian now. Mm-hmm. And I'm a fairy. And I can't stay here where Hylians are. I need to go home. I know, Navi. I want them to hug. It's a little hard for them to do that since Navi is so small, but whatever equivalent that they can make of that hug. Because they are best friends. And Link asks, will I ever see you again? And Navi says, I don't know. I hope so. But not now. Please, Link, make the most of your time. And so, with one tearful farewell, the friends part, and Navi makes her way alone back home. And Link, with a lot on his mind and the world and his life ahead of him, makes his way out of the temple, through town, and approaching the singular castle. I have kind of wondered at this point where, or when, I should say, Link had shown up. As Zelda is here looking inside, I have to imagine that this is supposed to be a redo of when they first met. And so instead, Link does not have a fairy. And yet Zelda feels a strange sense of déjà vu. I feel like I've met you somewhere before. And Link says, so have I. So do I. Somewhere in time. And that is the conclusion of Ocarina of Time. And thank you all for joining me on this adventure. For this storytelling adventure. This opportunity to take a game that I love so much and expand on its story in a way that fits the game as a game, but also creates a more connected story along with the game. I am not saying that this is how the game should have been, but I think it's a really fun way to look at how these characters can be characters and how the story could have been in a way that's a little more story-focused. I hope you enjoyed your time, and I hope that you will join me again on our further adventures. I do hope to be able to do this with every single Zelda game in the franchise. I'm going to be replacing all of the playthroughs that are currently on my channel with these streams. And I hope that you will join me along for the ride. I appreciate it oh so very much. The plan that I have going forward is going to be a little loosey-goosey. I talked a little bit at the very beginning of this stream, which is probably the segment that's not going to be part of the VOD that's posted on YouTube. The next game on the list is actually going to be Tears of the Kingdom. It has been 2 years now since that was first brought out, and it is high time that I revisited it. And I also have an appointment, as it were, with a podcast who is going to be going over Tears of the Kingdom and all of the segments. So I want to make sure that I am up to date for that. I'm going to come back to this. So we're going to have some music. That is not going to start until the Switch 2 comes here, which is not for a few more weeks left. So I am not planning on uploading too much to YouTube. I'm not doing everything. I am not 100%ing Tears of the Kingdom. I did it once. I'm not doing it again. Oh my gosh. I am not doing it again. That's what burnt me out on it in the first place. I will do a sufficient amount. I don't know. I will do enough. That's all I can say. I will do enough. What enough is going to be very much dependent on vibes. I will do all of the dungeons. I will do all of the tiers because that is story, and we need story. Very important for me. I have a couple of ideas of things I want to do as far as the story is concerned, and we'll talk about it once we get into it. Because that's what we're doing. It'll certainly be a new experience compared to this one, because the game is not so linear, and so it's a lot harder to create a solid narrative. But we're going to try our best, and we're going to see how it goes. It'll be a fun experiment. So that's going to be our plan. In the meantime, for my Zelda streams, for the next 3 Mondays, I am going to be streaming a Link to the Past randomizer, and I'm going to be streaming crossbow training, Link's crossbow training. I'm not sure how that's going to space out. We'll see what happens. I will definitely be posting at least one stream of crossbow training. And then depending on how far we get in that crossbow training, I may do a second stream of that. It just kind of depends on how everything spaces itself out. So if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching these on YouTube. I hope you've had fun. And I hope that you will leave some comments in regards to how you think the story went. Whatever sections that you happen to watch, I hope that you enjoyed it and that you have some ideas about how I told this story or how you would tell this story. And everybody, of course, who has been here on stream, I hope that you have had a wonderful time, whether you have been chatting with me, contributing to the story, just saying hello, or just hanging out in the background. I hope you had fun. I hope to see you all again real soon, somewhere out there in the multiverse. YouTube, we'll see you soon.